Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about the books that I read in July, and I'm excited to share these with you. There's a lot of good ones. So if you are new to my channel, I created this channel as a homeschooling resource to give you curriculum ideas, organizational ideas, and ways to invite Christ into your homeschool space. So if you're interested in those things, please hit that subscribe button and let's talk about these books. Okay, so this last month I read 3 books, which was a big improvement over the last few months. It's been really hard for me to read being pregnant. It just had made me so sick, or it made me fall asleep. So either way, it just wasn't a good combination. So getting through 1 or 2 books was really difficult for me. So I was proud of myself for getting through 3. And I have book reviews for 2 of these on my blog. So I'll make sure those are linked down below and you can go check them out if you want. Some of the things I say here will be similar to what's already there, but there might be a few different things. There might be a few more quotes and stuff. So if you want to check those out, you can. But without further ado, let's talk about the books. Okay, so the first one I wanted to mention is Anxious People, and we read this for book club. I am so excited. We're back to book club again. Hopefully, hopefully it'll be in for the long haul. Everything is up in the air in the world from day to day, so I'm not really sure. But right now we are doing book club. We do it in person and stuff, and we haven't been doing it for the last 18 months. And so it's been really fun to be able to go to book club again and have books that we talk about. And this book I really, really liked, actually. Some of them I don't like as much. Some of them I like more once we discuss them together. And some of them I just already like. So there you go. Anyways, this one was a lot of fun to read. It is, a fiction book. And it is, I'll give you an overview. Again, I don't want to give anything away, and I have to be careful in my language so I don't give anything away. Anyways, it is talking about this bank robber that they go in to rob this bank because they just get in this circumstance that they think that's the only option for them is to rob this bank. And it's just they don't know what else to do. So they go in, they're not successful in robbing the bank, but they are successful in getting away from the police when they're trying to escape. And they happen to end up in this apartment building, in this apartment that's being showed. So maybe it's more like a condo because I think they're buying it, not just renting it out. Anyways, and so they end up there in the middle of this showing. So now there's all these hostages. But this bank robber really isn't a bank robber. They have a gun and stuff, but it's just really not the circumstance they thought that they would end up in. And so this book talks about the perspective of all the different people that are in this room, and they come from all different backgrounds. They're all there at this open house type thing for this apartment for different reasons. And this book goes through that. It goes through the 2 cops that interview people. So some of the writing in here is slightly different. Let me see if I can find. So right here, it's more like an interview interrogation format because they're talking to the police about the bank robber. And so it flashes a little bit from the past to the future and then back again. So their perspective on what happened in that apartment building with the bank robber, and then it goes back to what's actually going on in the apartment with the bank robber. So there's a little bit, it's not confusing, that might sound confusing, but I didn't feel like it was confusing at all. And I feel like the different types of type or print, whatever you want to call it in the book, helps you understand where you were in the story. But I just loved the background of all the different people. It was really cool because in the end, these people all come together and they're very united in a way they weren't at the beginning. And they were such a different group of people. You would never look at them and say, these people are gonna be best friends at the end of this hostage situation. But they were, and they were all, like I said, drastically different people from different walks of life and different stages of life. And they all were able to work together and become really good friends. And I just loved it because I feel like it shows that so many of us can become friends, but we don't give each other a chance. And they all became very vulnerable for each other and shared a lot of personal experiences with one another. And I'm not saying go out and share all your most vulnerable moments with everybody, but because of that, they were able to interact with each other in a different way because they realized, oh, you have struggles too. We all have struggles. There's always something that we're all working on that's hard for us. And I think sometimes we forget that. Sometimes it's very easy to either think, I don't have any problems whatsoever, which I don't think that happens very often, or it's easy to think I'm the only one that has problems. And then we are always the victim. And when we're always the victim, we don't look outside of ourselves and see that other people are struggling. And if we reached out and worked together, we could all get through these things together. And that's kind of what they did. And I just really loved it. I thought it was a beautiful story. It had a lot of like Christian elements running through it. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but you can just see this point of working together, striving for things together, and how we all become perfect together. It's not just one person becoming perfect by themselves. So I just thought it was a beautiful story. I highly recommend it. It was a really good book club discussion book as well. Okay, the second book I read was The Moment of Lift. And I was very excited to read this book. It was on my book list for the year. And my friend in Texas was like, have you read this book? If not, you should. And I was like, oh, actually, it's on my list. And so I read it. And when she was visiting here, we were able to discuss it together. So that was fun. We had our own like mini book club, I guess. But I really enjoyed reading this book. It has a lot of sensitive issues. I'll just say that, like, Melinda Gates is talking about a lot of hard things. You know, she's helping women throughout the world in a lot of third world countries, and there's a lot of hard things. Even in our own, here in America where I live, there's a lot of issues that we might not be aware of that are very, very hard and very, very delicate, and they pull at your heartstrings. And I don't feel like she ever deep dives into any issue per se. It's more of an overview of a lot of different things and a lot of different things that she helps with in her business. And so I really enjoyed all of that. I thought her information was very important and very valid, even with everything that's going on with her right now. I don't think it takes away from the things that you can learn from her. I think there's still a lot that you can learn from everything that she teaches us in this book and her life experiences. And so I thought it was beautiful. And some of these stories, I can't relate to them in any sort of way, but I have been to Africa, I've been to China, I lived in China for a while and was teaching English, and in Africa I was doing humanitarian work. So I've seen some of these circumstances, not the worst, not what she describes. And so I can sort of imagine, and I always felt guilty coming home knowing I have a full pantry of food, I have a house. You know, it might not be this huge house or anything, but I have a house, I have a room, I have clothes, I have a family, you know, all these different things. And so sometimes it's really hard for me to read these things or go to those countries and come home and feel like, oh my gosh, I am so spoiled rotten. And so I just have to try to do the best I can with what I've been given. And I feel like that is the way I can show God that I'm grateful and to give back, is by doing what I can. You know, it might not be what Melinda Gates does because I don't have that much money and stuff to be able to do that kind of thing, but any little bit of service I can do, and then also just being grateful for what I do have, I feel is a big thing I can do to show that I am grateful for what I have. You know, that I don't know how else to say it or how to explain it in a clearer way, but I feel like showing our gratitude for what we've been given and taking care of what we've been given is a way to give back, even if it may not seem like it. I think it is a big way we can give back, and sometimes the only way that we can give back, at least right now in our current circumstances. So that was kind of my spill on that, but there's a lot of really good stories in here, a lot of good information. I feel like it is eye-opening to things that are going on in the world and struggles with women, and just Melinda Gates' hope to help these women feel empowered and feel like they can do more than they've been taught, especially in a lot of their cultures. So I just wanted to share a few quotes. I have so many of them. It was hard to pick from this book because there was just so many good ones. But this quote, again, it's out of context, so I'll explain it in a minute, but it says, "The power guided her in the right direction because more than almost anything else society and government provide, education determines who thrives." And I really love that. Just the importance of, in this book, she talks about a lot of stories where educating these women helped them so much. Even, you know, they have all these traditions and all these ways they do things, even with giving birth, like during childbirth and stuff. And a lot of them, they just didn't know how damaging it was and how many babies were dying and all these different things, even skin to skin type contact right after baby was born, and how like it warms the baby and it has that connection and the difference that that can make. And so just educating these women sometimes provides more than anything else can. And so I just really loved that quote. And then since I love educating, I love just learning about schools and teaching and all that kind of stuff, these next few quotes are all about that kind of stuff. But it says the best schools lift up the students who never thought they could rise. And when you see that happen, it can make you cry with joy. And I just think that's so beautiful. You know, they lift up the students who never thought they could rise. I feel like that brings the most joy to any teacher's life, is seeing kids' eyes light up who didn't get it before or who nobody took the time to help teach them. I just think that's amazing. And then great schools don't teach you, they change you. And I hope that I provide that for my kids. I hope we can provide that in the world. You know, the world is a school. We're constantly learning, or we should be. And that's, you know, those things change us. They make us want to be better, hopefully. And then I love this quote just because I think it's so important to remember in a world where we're not perfect people. It says, "Nothing sharpens my focus like a mistake." And I just love that. Like when we make mistakes, it helps us refocus, helps us understand what we did wrong and to think about it in a different way. So don't shun mistakes. They're very important. And so on my blog post, I talk about how I think it's so important to make sure we teach our kids hard issues. It doesn't mean we have to flash all this stuff right in their faces, or we have to drop them in the circumstances in these other countries or in our own country. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but we need to teach them that life isn't just about them. You know, there's a lot of kids starving in the world. There's a lot of kids that don't have homes. They don't have strong families, you know, all these different types of things. And our kids don't always know that. At least mine don't, you know. They live in a privileged environment, and sometimes it's hard to remember that there's so many people struggling in the world. And when we do, it helps us reach outside of ourselves. It helps our kids see a world that's not just their own little bubble. And so I think it's really important to teach them about hard things, even if it is hard, right? It's gonna be hard. But I really love this book. I thought it just had a lot of eye-opening type things. And again, it's more of an overview of a lot of different issues, and maybe it'll give you some ideas of ways that you can help and serve in the world. Okay, so the last book I read this month was Educated. This is a memoir by Tara Westover. There's probably a lot of you that have heard of it. It's a few years old and it's very popular. But I was drawn to it because Tara Westover is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so am I. I don't currently think she's practicing, at least from what I could see online, but she did grow up as a member of the church. But her experience was very different than mine. Very, very different. So much so that when I read this book, I'm just like, how is this even possible? It seems completely beyond my realm of even understanding as she shares her experiences, because I'm like, wait, what? Like it was mind-blowing reading this book and reading about her experiences and all that. If you're not familiar, like she grew up in Idaho, actually not too far from where I live, and she grew up in the mountains away, like they lived by a small town, but her dad was very much against most people that were members of the church because he believed they didn't practice in the correct way. And he was very strict and said, this is the way things are. Like anything that comes above your ankles, that's immodest, you know, and all that sort of things. And modern medicine is evil. And so they rarely went to the doctor. They were in several car accidents, several like serious problems, like serious medical issues, and they still don't go to the doctor. Her mom does a lot of homeopathic type stuff, makes essential oils and all that kind of stuff as well. So this is kind of the environment she was growing up in. And she is the youngest of 7 kids and has one sister in that mix, and the rest are brothers. And there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of different things. And they also didn't believe in public education and that it was evil and that the government was gonna get you through public education or through medical stuff. They just were very paranoid, and later thought maybe her dad was bipolar as she became educated. thought maybe that's what was going on with him and his issues. So anyways, they were homeschooled, but not in a way that was actually teaching them much. You know, they were working all the time. So maybe they would learn a little bit, but they weren't actually learning very much. So this book talks about that. It goes through obviously her childhood, but then her going to school, her becoming educated. So of her 7 siblings, 3 of them have PhDs, which is her included. And then the other 4 don't even have a high school diploma. Her sister tried to get a GED, and they said maybe she had a 3rd or 4th grade education. So the very big differences in their education on one end and the other. And she had an older brother that kind of inspired her to learn. He was the one that went to school first. He went to BYU, which is Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And then she did as well, but she went when she was 17 years old. And she was supposed to be a junior in high school and was going to college, but nobody knew. She just said she was homeschooled and she got a 28 on her ACT, so she was able to get in and went to school. But it was interesting to see how sheltered she was from the world. Her dad was very, very focused on his way of thinking, and that was the only way to think. If you didn't believe what he said, then you were evil and you were following the devil, basically, and everyone else in the world was wrong, and he was the only one that was right. So she grew up in that kind of mentality. So then going to school was very eye-opening for her, and she did a study abroad at Cambridge and ended up going to Cambridge. I believe that's correct. I'm trying to remember for sure, but anyways, and so all these things were very eye-opening for her. She had never heard of the Holocaust. And when she tried to ask a question about it in one of her classes, they thought she was making a joke out of it, and all thought, why would you make a joke out of something that was so horrible? She had no idea, very, very sheltered from so many issues in the world and from the world itself. And so there was a lot of things going on. So obviously this catches up to her eventually as she's out in the world. She already struggles getting out in the world. And then when she's out there struggling with who she even is and her identity and stuff. And so she has a lot of abuse in her background, right? It's if you don't believe this, then it's not gonna be good. Verbal and physical abuse are going to happen. And she had to work through that. She almost failed her PhD because she was really struggling emotionally through all of this. So I feel like one of my biggest takeaways from this book is the importance of not focusing just on this is the one idea and everybody else is wrong. I know people like that. I have personally experienced this. When you get so narrow-minded on something, you cross everybody else off. You exclude people and you miss so much in the world, which is what happened to her in her childhood and to her dad and to her family. And so it's very important to look at things from a variety of perspectives. And I feel like spirituality and science have meshed so well together if we're willing to open our eyes and allow them to. We can learn so much from them. And so I learned this when I was in college, the importance of looking at things from different perspectives. And even if you don't believe the other perspective, at least understanding where other people are coming from. And it's so important being able to work with other people, being able to understand other people. And she didn't have that growing up, and neither did her family. And you can see how detrimental it was to her and to her mental health and everything when she went out into the world, and just how her mind was blown. It was very difficult for her. But I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed reading about it. I feel like it taught me so much just about life and the importance of making sure that we are open to the possibilities the world has to offer. It doesn't mean we believe all the things, that we embrace all the things, but it means that we are at least open to learn and to understand and not just think, no, I am right. This is my line and I am right. And no matter what anybody else says, there isn't anything else that is right besides what's right here. And I just think that's really important. And one of the quotes that I really liked from her was at the very end of the book. It says she realized through all of her experiences that who writes history, because she studied history a lot. That was one of the things she loved. And she's like, she thought about it, and she's like, I do. Like, I'm the one that writes history, and that's true for all of us. We're all the ones writing history. You know, our stories are what become history to somebody else, to our posterity and things like that. So what are we writing about, and what do we want to share? And I just thought that was beautiful. So those are the books I read in July. I learned a lot. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the books for this month and just seeing what else I get to learn. That's why I love reading, because I feel like it just helps me learn so much and be exposed to a lot of different things that I wouldn't normally. So if you have book recommendations for me, put them in the comments. I love your guys' book recommendations. I've read several of them and they have been some of my favorite books. And if you enjoy seeing these types of videos, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.